Welcome. I am Haram tonight. Federal government set to begin trial of Boko Haram suspects held in prisons across the country on October 9th. Angela Merkel wins a fourth term as German Chancellor as her party remains the biggest in the country's parliament. Benue State's government vows to come down on officials caught diverting relief materials meant for internally displaced persons in the state. And Kenya's chief prosecutor orders an investigation into the country's electoral commission over possible misconduct in last month's annulled election. The federal government will begin the trial of Boko Haram suspects detained in military camps from next month, promising that cases will be speedily handled. And that's according to the Minister of Justice. The ministry, in a statement today, says that poor investigation and logistic problems have been responsible for the delay in prosecuting suspects. The ministry explains that the 1,600 detainees will be tried early next month, adding that judges who would expeditiously handle the cases have been chosen.
Over 20,000 and a huge displacement figure estimated to be around 2 million people. The emergence of the terrorist group Boko Haram in northeast Nigeria has left tales of woes. Communities are left desolate, a trademark of the group, making it one of the most feared in the world. Those who are lucky to have survived the onslaught recount their ordeals.
I was shot 3 times during the attack on Damaturu on the 1st of December 2014. 2 on my legs and 1 on my right hand. My husband was shot 5 times and he died on the spot. I was rushed to the hospital in Damaturu. I can now trek with or without crutches, depending on the distance. I didn't spend a dime, and I am most grateful for all that saved my life.
We were attacked in Gurboa and we had to trek for a far distance before we could get a vehicle to bring us to Damaturu for treatment. The bullet entered my jaw and passed through my nose, which remains a miracle how I survived it.
The response of the federal government is that of resolve to repel and crush the insurgents. The strategy has been to relocate its military command to the area worst hit in Borno State, a move which appears to have paid off with recapturing of local government formerly under Boko Haram control. Although pockets of attack still occur, the military maintains that the group has been contained.
We will continue to strive to consolidate on the successes recorded, especially in the ongoing counter-insurgency operations in the Northeast, to ensure stability, which will facilitate the unfolding of the federal government's socio-economic reforms in the region and indeed in the entire country.
Evidence of this is the recent release by the Ministry of Justice that 1,600 detainees are set for trial in October, which to many is a step in the right direction to buttress the claim of victory by the military. Although Abubakar Shekaru continues to stand in the forefront of the group's activities, several other high-profile members, such as Khalid al-Banawi, who has been held on charges of abducting and murdering a number of foreign workers, is a huge boost to the efforts of the federal government.
The Benue State government has threatened to arrest any official caught diverting relief materials from the internally displaced persons camp following a standoff between camp officials and the IDPs who demanded explanation on movement of relief materials out of the camp. The state's deputy governor and chairman of Flood Disaster Management Committee, Mr. Benson Abonu, issued the threats today following movement of relief materials without his approval.
Food. One of man's basic needs, according to Abraham Maslow's theory, certainly has the potential of causing civil unrest even among those facing internal displacement crisis. A likely scenario is playing out here at the camp for internally displaced persons in Makurdi. Cynthia Akombo and 7 others would have their lunch from this pot, cooking 2 sachets of noodles for lack of ingredients to prepare jollof rice. Other families here face similar challenge.
They gave me spaghetti and indomie yesterday with rice. That's what I got from government yesterday. But I don't have ingredients. That's my problem right now.
Suspicion, however, appears to have set in as this bus loaded with relief items and food heading out of the camp has been intercepted by internally displaced persons. The situation was almost getting out of hand before the arrival of the state deputy governor, whose attention was drawn to the conflict.
When we saw the vehicle, I was telling them what we needed was that I did not even go to him. I did not go to him. I went to the camp manager because he's the person overseeing everything here. We asked him here, under your instruction, by your instruction, he said whatever thing that is going to leave this place should be explained to the IDP. Correct. And we want to know whether you have given that permission.
The deputy governor orders the items to be returned to the store since no authorization was issued and threatens to sanction further diversions.
I'm not happy at all. And I want this to stop from today. And I'm not going to listen to any explanation from any quarters. The reason is I am not aware that anything was going to be moved out. And I'm not happy about it.
While this is going on, some IDPs at this makeshift church will rather worship and pray to God for solutions.
The first reading precisely spoke directly to them through Prophet Isaiah chapter 55, verse 8 says, "My ways are not your ways, my thoughts are not your thoughts." That is God speaking to them. So whatever situations they found themselves, they should resign, like Job.
As peace finally returns to the camp, there are expectations that the parties will work together again to regain the confidence of the IDPs by ensuring even distribution of the relief materials.
Let's turn to the environment and its attendant challenges. The flooding in Kogi State has certainly had damaging effects, with victims sheltering at the internally displaced persons camp built by the state government. The disaster has elicited responses, including the distribution of food items donated by the wife of the Kogi State governor. However, the residents are complaining about the lack of potable water, while also expressing a desire to return to their homes.
Flood victims in Kogi State are still reeling from the disaster that displaced them from their homes, affecting their livelihood and state infrastructure across the 9 local government areas of Kogi State, and forcing them to take shelter at the internally displaced camp set up by the present administration.
This flood don't break our house. So as the flood break our house now, we'll park our road outside. So as we come to hear them for radio, say to government won't help people where water carry their house like this. Now I can't come.
What she's distributing so far, to me, I think the government has tried.
Donated food items were distributed to the people in the camp, who also call on the state government to make available the basic necessities, while bemoaning their plight and desire to return to their homes when the conditions become conducive.
As this place is there now, no water, no light. So we have a problem of water and light. So we pray for God. May governor come, may come help us with water.
This is natural disaster, and there's nothing the government could do to stop it. And the only thing we can do is to ensure you're safe.
The IDP camp presently accommodates about 1,000 people, and the Kogi State government has maintained its resolve to mitigate the impact of the flood on the victims.
In the meantime, the primary healthcare system in Bayelsa State has been crippled following the industrial action embarked upon by the members of the Nigerian Union of Local Government Employees. Primary health centers, which are usually the first port of call by indisposed residents owing to their accessibility and low costs, have been shut down for over 6 weeks, leaving them to seek other alternatives. The situation has also been further compounded by the nationwide strike declared by the Joint Health Sector Workers Union. Johisu.
Young children happily play in the streets, barefooted, blissfully unaware of the health hazards they're being exposed to in a rather unhygienic environment. Their tender immune systems may not be enough to protect them from the diseases they may pick playing on the dirty floors. Now, this is where it gets even more complicated. The health centers where they and their parents could visit in the event of illness are not even functioning. Most of the primary health centers in Yenagoa, the state capital, are locked up, and some are gradually being overtaken by weeds. In the heart of Yenagoa main town, the closure of the health center is having a telling effect on the residents of Amarata community. But the striking health workers are sticking to their guns.
They do deliver women here. Now what happened when a woman wants to deliver here in the night? What happened? Just imagine what happened. If you don't have money going to FMC, what would even the FMC is closed down?
Even though the general public is affected by the shutdown of the health sector in the state, pregnant women and babies due for immunizations are the ones most affected.
Some mothers, like pregnant women, Tuesdays and their antenatal day, when they come, the place they close. And most of them, they come, they ask me, these people never resume. I will say they never resume. Even the Wednesdays, now so mothers, they come here with their children. When they come, nothing, they happen.
With the crippling of the primary health centers, the situation creates an unexpected boom for pharmacies as an alternative point of health care.
I'm appealing to the government to look into the cause of the strike and they come to agreement so that these cases, minor cases, they will not rush to chemists.
The face-off between the government and the Nigerian Union of Local Government Employees does not defy a solution for the sake of the people they both serve.
These are some of the issues we have always, been pointing out to the government in several in our communiques. Create a conducive environment for the workers. And let's see whether they will not perform. Because without a conducive environment, services cannot be, maximally given.
But even in the best of times, the state of health infrastructure in Bayelsa could be a source of worry, like this 500-bed hospital, which was completed and equipped by previous administrations, but has since been abandoned.
I'm looking for funds to authorize the equipment, modern equipment, and then the referral center here. And by next year, the 350-bed hospital, they say 500 bed, 350 bed it was restructured to be. By next year, we are going to open and utilize that hospital.
The saying goes that when two elephants fight, it is the grass that suffers. That may well be the situation the Bayelsa people at the grassroots are facing. In order to stay alive and healthy, they may just be faced with choices that may just be as risky as the health challenges themselves.
In part two after the break, leaders express hope for a better Nigeria as church services are held to mark the country's 57th independence anniversary. Please stay with us.